So my job is to fight for my community. That is my job. My primary job as a member of parliament. I know that people will say it's to hold the government to account, legislation, etc. But the heart of it, it's I have to stand up for my community. I have to make sure that their needs are heard and that their needs are met. And I'm elected to be their voice. And it doesn't matter if it's a tough battle or an easy win. I have to get up every day and make sure that their voices are heard. No matter what circumstances are thrown at me, I have to fight for them and unapologetically fight for them. And so in that context, I was very concerned about how the leadership race in my party would shake out, because there was a lot at stake. But for me, when I get up in the morning and say, how am I going to fight for my community? How am I going to stand up for them? It's really important to have somebody that you can believe in, to get behind as the leader, as your battle buddy, if you will. After the last federal election campaign, it was really tough. You know, I don't want this to sound like therapy, but it was tough on me personally, just because I knew what that loss meant for my community. And it, yes, we gained seats, we reduced the Trudeau government to a minority, but at the end of the day, we didn't form government, and I knew what that meant for my community. I mean, those of you who watched this from Calgary No-Sell, you know what it meant. It meant that Justin Trudeau had more time in office. And I mean, look at the devastation that has been brought to our country since the last federal election. Ridiculously poor, that's not even the right word, costly, slow response to COVID-19, the rail blockades, the divisiveness, region versus region in this country at a time when we needed to be united in prosperity and vision. That election loss, here we are. So the next leader of the party needed to be somebody that I could get behind. Really, I mean, a lot at stake, putting it mildly. So Erin Toole was elected by the membership of our party 2 short weeks ago. And I have to say, I feel like we can form government. And I'll tell you why. There have been a few things. He's picked really smart staff to put around him in the leader's office. That's really incredibly important. He has really good people advising him, and that's incredibly important. He's picked a really strong leadership team, and that's incredibly important. But for me, it was also about, his ability. Can he inspire, right? Can you watch him and go, okay, yeah, that's what's been missing in terms of leadership for our country. And today we had our caucus meeting in Ottawa. What does that mean? It's the meeting of all of the Conservative members of Parliament. And it was the first time we've met since the leader was elected. And he gave a speech this morning. And you have to I'll put this in context for you. I have seen a lot of speeches in my time, a lot of speeches. And I have pretty good BS detector. And you just kind of know when something's going to resonate with the Canadian public or not. And I watched this speech, and I got to tell you, I needed to hear this speech this morning. Me, personally, I needed to hear this. I needed to listen to something from somebody who is like, here's a battle buddy. Here's somebody that is going to fight for my community that I can believe in. And I don't say this lightly. You guys know that I'm not going to come on my channel and try to sell you something I don't believe in, because that's not who I am. So I don't do what I'm about to do lightly. I want you to watch the speech that he gave. I'm going to clip it as soon as I'm done here, and I'm not going to comment afterwards. I'm just going to let it speak for itself, because for the first time in a long time, I listened to a speech and I'm like, okay, all right. I'm going to put on the armor and I'm going to go to battle with you. against Justin Trudeau. I think he's got what it takes, guys. And so here on the channel today, I want to introduce you to Erin O'Toole.
Merci tout le monde. Friends and colleagues, welcome back. Hear, hear. It is so good to see so many of you in person again, not on Zoom. Mes amis, je suis heureux que notre équipe soit enfin réunie. Durant plusieurs mois, vous avez travaillé fort dans vos comtés pour les citoyens. Vous avez mis la priorité là où on devait le faire. These have been stressful, uncertain months, but Canadians have persevered. Many of us even went without haircuts, which wasn't a big issue for me or for Alex Ruff. Is Alex here? Thank you, Colonel. We had to learn to teach our children elementary school math. That was hard for us, but think of how hard it would have been for the Liberals. And we all became video conference experts, but secretly, I know that many of you, like me, missed the heckling when we were on mute, didn't you? We have all been through so much as individuals while we were separated by COVID-19. Our families, our communities, our country has been through so much. But now, just as I dropped my daughter at high school for grade 9 today, Canadians are coming together again. We are coming together again. And we are stronger and more united than ever before. Je vous le dis, notre parti va être plus uni que jamais. On va se battre ensemble contre ceux qui veulent nous voir échouer. The Liberals and most political pundits wanted us to stay divided after the leadership race. They wanted us to hold grudges or work against each other. But they don't understand us. Many of them never have. Our party was built on the belief that despite our differences, we are better and stronger together when we are united. And you know what? So is Canada. Notre parti est le parti à l'origine du Canada. Et il s'est bâti sur une idée simple, que deux peuples fondateurs peuvent s'unir pour une destinée commune, parce que nous sommes plus forts que nous sommes unis. C'est le principe que va nous permettre de grandir notre parti et d'accueillir plus de Canadiens dans notre teinte bleue que jamais. Canada is the strongest and most capable country in the world. Je crois en ce pays de tout mon cœur. By working together, Canadians have always overcome adversity. So too will our Conservative caucus. Through respect, professionalism, and the pursuit of excellence, we will show all Canadians that we are a government in waiting. Together, we will form an engaged, ethical, and compassionate Conservative government. Per ardua ad astra, my RCAF motto, through adversity to the stars. Friends, this is our new mission statement. Per ardua ad astra, c'est à travers l'adversité que l'on atteint les étoiles. 2015 à aujourd'hui, le temps est lent. Regardez autour de vous. notre pays est plus divisé, moins prospère et moins respecté à l'international. After 4 years of Justin Trudeau, Canada has become more divided, less prosperous, and less respected on the world stage. We have become so divided that a Canadian Armed Forces veteran that I met in Nisku, Alberta in January told me he was giving up on our country. In Calgary in January, office towers stood empty. Last winter, the blockades on our railways saw rural Ontario and Quebec run dangerously close to running out of home heating oil and fuel. The Communist Party in China was already banning Canadian agricultural exports. Then COVID-19 hit. Small businesses have borne the brunt of this economic crisis. Many of them Canadian family businesses, like the owners of Thai Hotspot Restaurant in Curtis, Ontario, who had to close their doors after burning through their cash reserves and their savings. This was my wife Rebecca's favorite restaurant, and we're proud to call Rosemary and Roger our friends. We know they will bounce back. L'Entrecôte Saint-Jean à Montréal, une fière entreprise familiale, a dû fermer ses portes après 29 ans. La pandémie, mais aussi les mesures anti-business détruisent des jobs et des familles. Nous devons être là pour eux. And Vancouver's popular Campagnolo restaurant closed its doors in March because of the uncertainty. These doors have never reopened. Thousands of Canadian small businesses have had to make the difficult choice to close down, or they're now teetering on the edge of bankruptcy. And just this morning, Husky Energy announced the suspension and review of the West White Rose project. 250 platform jobs and over 1,000 unionized construction jobs in Newfoundland and Labrador. Thousands of families woke up this morning to disappointment and uncertainty at their kitchen table. These Canadians don't need hashtags or photo ops with Mr. Trudeau. They need a plan. They need hope for their future. There has been no greater challenge since the Great Depression than the way this virus has ravaged our economy. It would have been difficult enough to guide our country through this pandemic and rebuild if we had entered the crisis united and with a strong economy. Instead, we entered the pandemic divided, disrespected, and indebted. Weeks before COVID, we saw tech resources cancel a multi-billion-dollar investment in Canadian energy. Au Québec, on a vu Warren Buffett annuler son investissement au Québec à cause de blocus illégaux. Notre parti conservateur doit montrer aux Canadiens que nous avons une vision claire pour le futur. We must show Canadians that we have a plan to get our country back on track. We must restore hope for them. Canadians haven't always seen themselves in our party. We are going to change that. They will see themselves reflected in the Conservative Party of Canada, and they will see our caucus as a serious, intelligent, compassionate, and ethical government in waiting. Last week, I announced our outstanding House leadership team and our outstanding deputy leader. And yesterday, I unveiled our talented shadow cabinet. For the first time, a mom who lives on a working farm and has considerable experience in our commodities sector will serve as the Conservative Shadow Minister for Agriculture. Strong women will be our shadow ministers of public safety and emergency preparedness and health, ensuring our country is better prepared for the risk of a second wave of COVID-19. Pour la première fois de l'histoire de notre parti, un Québécois va être le leader en chambre du Parti conservateur. Un député qui commande le respect de tous, même de ses adversaires. Et nous avons une équipe déterminée au Québec, une équipe fière de la nation québécoise et fière d'un Canada uni. Another member of Parliament, whose father immigrated to Canada from Hong Kong after World War II. His father witnessed Canadian soldiers valiantly trying to defend Hong Kong more than half a century ago. He would be so proud to see his son serve as the Shadow Minister for Foreign Affairs at a time when defending the rights and freedoms of Hong Kong is once again center stage for Canada. A Sikh woman who ran her own law practice in Calgary will serve as our Shadow Minister for Women and Gender Equality at a time where women have been disproportionately affected by the economic devastation of COVID-19. Whether you are a millennial or an okay boomer, baby boomer, whether you're LGBTQ or straight, regardless of your religion or ethnicity, regardless of how long you've been a member of the Canadian family, the Conservative front benches and our party will reflect the incredible diversity and opportunity of this country. Nous allons représenter toute la promesse de notre grand pays, notre histoire nationale qui nous guide et le désir que nous avons de montrer à tous les Canadiens qu'ils ont une place dans notre parti. Nous allons défendre le deal des deux peuples fondateurs qui ont créé ce pays. Ensemble, nous allons bâtir un pays encore plus fort. Notre caucus est fait de gens qui, tellement des Canadiens, ont surmonté les épreuves. Our caucus is made up of people who, like so many Canadians, have faced and overcome adversity. Once again, per ardua, ad astra. Adversity can push us to be stronger, more self-reliant, and more committed to working together to help the vulnerable. We don't have much time to spare in getting our country back on track, but we are ready. We are a government in waiting, and we're going to act like it. Ensemble, on va prouver que nous sommes dignes d'être le prochain gouvernement du Canada. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge our first gathering in months in the Sir John A. Macdonald building. The founder of this party, the founder of this country. But statues erected in tribute to Sir John A. Macdonald have been torn down, even decapitated, by angry mobs who seek to cancel his legacy without even trying to understand it. Senator Murray Sinclair, the former chair of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, has called the tearing down of statues counterproductive to reconciliation. He instead suggested placing plaques beside statues to tell a more balanced story about Canada. Perhaps we should do that next to the Langevin building. Perhaps we should do that next to the Trudeau International Airport. He also asked us to do more to honor Indigenous heroes. And I tried to play my part. 5 years ago, in the US Congress, I spoke about Tommy Prince, a decorated Indigenous veteran from the legendary 1st Special Service Force, where Canadians and Americans fought side by side as the 1st Special Forces unit in history. In that vein, I wonder if a building named for the father of Confederation will shake or maybe crumble if I mention another father of Confederation, Métis leader Louis Riel. A man, Sir John A. Macdonald, sentenced to death, perhaps one of the most debated people in Canadian history. Riel has been called a father of Manitoba, a warrior for Métis and Indigenous rights and culture, a Francophone folk hero, a thrice-elected member of Parliament. He's also been called a traitor. Sir John A. Macdonald and Louis Riel were both Canadians who made good and bad choices, and the history books have rightfully scrutinized them each accordingly, and they should continue to do so. But theirs is also a story of what happens when Canada is divided. When Western alienation takes root and people feel ignored by a distant government in Ottawa who does not try to understand the fears and desires of thousands of people miles away. Quand les Canadiens francophones et autochtones voient leur langue et leur culture menacées, c'est pourquoi nous ne devons jamais effacer leur histoire en la jetant à terre. Again, this is why we must never erase their stories by tearing them down. Cancel culture dooms us to forget the lessons from these stories. It also ignores the incredible progress and resilience of Canada. Per ardua ad astra. Sir John A. Macdonald once said, quote, "We are a great country and shall become one of the greatest in the universe if we preserve it. We will sink into insignificance and adversity if we suffer it to be broken." Immediately before his execution, Louis Riel is said to have told his guard who was asking him for a souvenir, quote, "I have nothing but my heart, and I have given it long ago to my country." We must learn from their stories, not cancel them. We must rededicate our glowing hearts to this great country. Nous devons vouer notre amour à notre patrie. We can and we will overcome adversity together, and we will emerge from the COVID era stronger and more united as a country than ever before. Good morning again, Canada. I'm Erin O'Toole from Bowmanville, Ontario. I'm proud of my country, and I'm very proud of this team in front of me. We are here to fight for you, and I'm asking you to take a look at the Conservative Party of Canada. Thank you very much.